Daybreak Tuesday. Now, the agricultural sector of any economy basically centers around performing the basic rule of food production and sustenance to feed the populace and provide raw materials for industries to convert into finished products. The dawn of Nigeria's independence on October the 1st, 1960, came with the expectation that its local agriculture production would perform incredibly well in the provision of food for the new nation. Almost 61 years after, the agriculture sector has gone through various phases of policies and development. What has been the significant achievement and shortfalls of these policies, and how can they be better implemented for sustainability? We have in the studio right here the Chairman, Agriculture and Agro-Allied Group, the President of African Farmer, Mogaji, a name synonymous with agro-business in Nigeria. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning. So I became the immediate past.
Oh, immediate past.
Yes,
yeah.
Chairman at the LCCI.
Okay.
No.
You're welcome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So glad to have you here.
Interesting name there, African Farmer. That's just quite a unique one there.
Thank you.
All right.
Now, the population of Nigeria keeps growing astronomically, while on the other hand, food production keeps decreasing almost at the same rate. How do you explain this?
So I see it as opportunity. The population is growing, food production is reducing. That's an opportunity. That's a gap to also take care of the unemployed, because we have quite huge unemployed in the country. So it's opportunity. Yes, I see opportunity, but also the flip side is I see also lack of planning or adequate planning, because data has it that during census you kind of have population explosion, because the couples are mostly at home. Election when we and COVID was also prolonged.
Yeah.
So we've not COVID babies are also springing out now. So it's basically lack of planning. And when I talk about planning, I'm not talking about planning for Nigeria. I say lack of planning for the realities around Nigeria. And when I say around Nigeria, I mean West Africa. So climate change is affecting the rainfall patterns across West Africa. And Nigeria has more prolonged rainfall. Nigeria is bigger. So they come to Nigeria to buy their grains, mostly grains. So if we're planning for Nigerians and we're not doing well at that, and our neighboring countries have climate change and they come to Nigeria, until we begin to plan for West Africa, we will never have enough for ourselves.
The charity begins at home.
Yes, so the way it works is, you hear our forex earning is low, we need to have more dollar in, we need to export. You can't export when you are not producing excess.
Yeah.
It is excess that drives export. So when we produce for West Africa, we will automatically produce excess, and the excess goes out. Don't forget, producing for West Africa is also export. And it is cash. So we need to begin to look at producing for West Africa. Then we would have enough, and we can share with the rest of the world. But until we take on the big brother, America produces so much because they've taken up the mindset of big brother, as in every country in the world is their concern.
Yes.
So they actually produce food for the world. That's why they have the biggest equipments any country has.
Oh, let's look at agriculture before the discovery of oil. Now, long before the advent of colonization, our forefathers were sustained mainly by agriculture. Like agriculture sector in Nigeria has gone through phases, and it covers the main fields of production like livestock, fisheries, and all. Like during the 1980s, the the sector employed the average of 80% of the population in the country. But with the discovery of oil in 1956, it seems like all the attention was moved from agriculture that has sustained even the pre-colonial era. After it sustained a lot from the days of our forefathers. So what really happened? It seems like every graduate now needs a white-collar job. Going into agriculture, saying I don't want to be called a farmer and all of that. So what really happened?
Well, it's always, there's nothing peculiar about what happened to Nigeria. When a family of two, as in two children, husband, wife, and two children, when they have the third child, it is automatic that all attention goes to the third child before they begin to balance things out, at least a month after.
Okay.
Yeah, so the same thing that happened to Nigeria for us forgetting other sector also happened to Malaysia. Malaysia also discovered oil and left agriculture. You know, when they found out that population growth and feeding was a challenge, they quickly woke up and got back and balanced it out. So Malaysia has oil, but agriculture, you know, gives them more money than the oil now. But we totally slept and bought a blanket and got a comfortable pillow and slept
I think
off.
that's what totally slept. Because if you say the attention moved for some months, then it come back. But it's not.
Here we bought a blanket and pillow and slept off. And we've not put in what is required. So when you hear, you know, it's an illusion when you hear that, oh, agriculture is doing well in the north. No, agriculture is not doing well in the north. They are more engaged in agriculture. It doesn't mean it's doing well. The farmers are not getting good pay for their farm produce. You heard of when a handful of people said they were not moving food to various regions in the country. They were not the farmers. They were just the transporters. They are a handful, less than 1%. Who paid for the price? When the tomatoes, onions, when everything rotted away on the farms, is the farmers. So by now we should have industrialized north, where everything wasting should be converted. You can't count factories in the north. So by now the north should be industrialized with agric factories, but you don't have it there. So the north is suffering. South, east, west, every aspect, every region of the country is not developed because policies have not been implemented adequately. I always say this, we have the best policies on paper. And I say if I become the Minister of Agriculture, I'm not going to do anything new. I'm just going to dust the files.
But then the notes, you mentioned the notes, you have an industrialized note. The Granite Pyramid in Kano, it's supposed to be a multi-billion naira project.
Yeah.
What has happened to it? Okay, now aside Kano, we have the cocoa house in Oyo State.
Yes.
Okay, in somewhere in Ondo is blessed with cocoa here.
Yeah.
Even the marijuana farm that lately the NDLEA went to and destroyed everything, which is supposed in other countries that's supposed to be a huge. It's supposed to have returns, even though it might be abused. But what happened to all of this multi-billion naira project that would have been contributed to the large GDPs of Nigerian economic employment sector? What happened to them?
So let me touch before I go to that. Let me touch the marijuana conversation, because many people just read the dailies and hear the few people concerned. Colorado was the first state to license marijuana in the United States. The most potent drug that the youth take today is called Colorado. One puff makes them go haywire. Now, if you go to Colorado, I did trainings there funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and I was there for a long time. You need to see people on the streets influenced by drugs. Yes, there's so much that can be made from marijuana oil. It's really medicinal, but you need to see the delinquent people all around ATMs, all seated by the roads. We don't want that to happen in Nigeria. If there's no quality control, then we cannot. We have more jobless people. Colorado is one of the fastest growing states in America. We don't have that in Ondo State and other states.
Okay.
So we need to take care of that before we embrace it. But the governor is moving also in the right direction of looking for alternative sources of revenue. So we talk about the cocoa house built with cocoa, Ondo State, the Oktikpa oil palm, Idonre cocoa, Eleoluji cocoa, you know, and it's all over. Now, policies and politicians. Politicians did not, well, the military, started with the military.
Okay.
The military brought in people who were not experienced to manage all those things.
Affairs.
So they ruined it.
Oh.
They ruined it. They just brought in somebody, they appointed who they wanted and who didn't have experience. I remember, because my dad was also GMD, second group and director of Odua Group of Companies. When he retired from there at age 42, he moved to Ondo State Investment, which was another organization like Odua. And I recall the former governor then, who is now a top politician, he was advised, my dad advised the governor then that, sir, we need to buy this equipment. In another 2 years, the equipment we have now would be obsolete.
Yeah,
so we
moribund.
need, we need to upgrade and the parts. And the governor said 2 years is still far.
Yeah.
And that is Oluwa Glass. Oluwa Glass makes ceramics, makes tiles. They were doing that. So because that governor did not buy the equipment or the parts, that company is history, but the resource, you get the soil, it's soil. What they use for ceramics is gotten under the soil. The soil is there, everything is there, but there's no factory. So the military played a lot of role in pushing it down. But after the military, you know, you don't cry over spilled milk.
Of course.
So after the military, the politicians have more abandoned projects than ever. There's a huge tomato processing plant in Ondo State.
Yeah, I agree.
There are, I think, about 2 in Gombe, all moribund. When you check the massive factories all around, if we just get them to work, even at the obsolete level, we will still go doing a lot of things. You know, so we need the politicians now to give direction, but we need the private sectors more to embrace what is available. The private sector is waiting on government, and government is saying we are broke. We need you to run with it. So the private sector that are embracing agriculture also now, they're embracing it from strictly what we see, not what is happening. So private is not working with government. And what do I mean? Because as a former chairman, I engage with many of them. So for a politician, impact is their focus, not making money. Government doesn't think of making money. Government thinks of how to make the citizens comfortable. So they're looking for, how do we create jobs? The private sector is looking at strictly money. But in other climes, developed countries, in US, Netherlands, Canada, they all work with cooperatives. So there's a model called social enterprise, where it is profit and impact. NGO, limited liability companies, the in-between model is called social enterprise, where you make money from impact. So they want to make money. Government wants impact. So nobody is willing to shift because next election is based on impact.
Of course, yeah.
You know, so they come in, so government gives them opportunity to invest, and they don't want to employ and have impact. That there's a huge bridge there, but the social enterprise component is what both parties need to talk about. So government is still doing very massive projects. When I say government, local, state, federal, everything is always massive because the money for contract is big. After they've implemented those projects, the locations they've implemented those projects, the rural people cannot fund it. And the urban people don't know these projects exist.
Wow.
So if the private sector goes to say, okay, the project I want to do now, has government invested in anything of such before? So the private sector feels we know so much, we are the money drivers, we have experience, and government is looking for new projects always. So we need that synergy to happen.
Now, successive governments have come up with several agricultural policies and programs and what have you, all aimed at achieving food security in the country. But eventually, these policies die with the various governments. Why hasn't there been a single successful agricultural policy?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That is, it's not rocket science. It's because most policies come from what I call lab to field, not field to lab. They don't go around taking surveys, asking questions. What do you need? No. They say this is what.
All right, now we're going to continue from where we stopped. Let's just fix one or two things right away. We'll take a brief break and come back right from where we're dropping off. Stay with us.
Mama, you're coming to Lagos. Banga. Baby, Mama just called me now. She's coming to see you. She asked me to tell you to make banga soup for her. And she's close to the house. Oh.
How do you expect me to prepare banga in just few minutes?
I have a solution for you.
Really?
You no sabi cook the banga. You no go enter my family.
Pali banga is used in making other exotic dishes such as banga jollof rice, banga efo riro, banga asaro or yam porridge, banga egusi, and many more. Pali banga is easy to open, no preservatives, no cholesterol, and no coloring. Approved by NAFDAC. Manufactured by Pali Agro Products Limited. Available in all leading stores and supermarkets nationwide.
Pali banga, natural palm fruit extracts for tasty African cuisine.
Glad to have you back on Daybreak Tuesday here on iBrandTV. And we still have very much here in the house, African farmer Mogaji, the immediate past chairman, Agriculture and Agro-Allied Group. Back to you. Before now, we're talking about policies and how unsuccessful these policies have been.
Yes, so like I said, the policies have been lab to field, not field to lab. We don't ask the people that the shoe pinches where they need intervention. We sit down and we think they need to produce more. And so what should we do? Let's package this. Nothing has changed in the last 20-something years. It's the same policy. Oh, we want them to grow more tomatoes. The question is, without your intervention, will they grow the tomatoes? Yes. The farmers growing tomatoes will grow tomatoes all year round. Likewise, cassava, yams. They don't need your intervention. They need a market. They need processors. They need someone to be buying. But over the last almost 30 years, what you see is they just dump money in production. And they dump money in production, not productivity. Production as in, okay, produce more. And unfortunately, produce more at the same time when everybody is producing. But there's no intervention that goes into warehousing, silos, storage. They don't invest in storage as a component of the intervention. They only invest in produce more. And they don't even give them, and I stand to be corrected, I have operated across the country, but more in the north, the central and southwest. You know, so I know my onions very well. They give them old variety of seeds. The same seeds we've been using for 20-something years. So if they normally would have 5 tons, there are seeds now that can give 30, 40 tons. And they are not genetically modified, but they are more expensive. They don't buy those seeds for them. They still give them the seeds that keep them where they are. So most policies,
Is it deliberate? It sounded like deliberate and intentional.
So, you know, in the procurement, the money is made in the procurement.
Okay.
So if 100 gram is sold for 5,000, and now 10 gram is sold for 5,000, 100 gram 5,000, 10 gram 5,000. So instead of saying grow 15 plots of land, they can actually grow 2 or 3 plots and get the results of, you know, 15 plots. So instead of allowing them spend less, instead of saying, oh, grow 15, the amount they will spend and the energy on 15 can be saved on 2 or 3.
Wow.
So the interventions don't use that. They don't buy them the best fertilizers. Everything is cheap, but it will now be loaded. So at the end of the day, it's always in cycles. And the farmers are smart. They know that what they give them is not quality, so they also sell it off. They sell it back to the people giving them and move to the next person to give them. So bottom line is that if these interventions must work, they should get their hands off it.
Okay.
Government should fund international NGOs and reputable local NGOs who are actually giving support to the farmers and can monitor instead of them wanting to do it. The moment they want to do it, that is opportunity, you know, to mess things up.
Okay, now let's look at the, you know, we're counting down to the 61st and independence of Nigeria. Looking at 61 years later, the Nigerian colonial economy was solely dependent on 3 crops, most like palm produce, granules, and cocoa, which accounted for 70% of Nigeria's total exports. Now, ever since, there's been a steady decline. I said that because in 1990, it fell to the lowest at 1.8%. And for some recovery, it recovered in 1994 to 1998, and then it recovered to 8.6%. Now, looking at all of this, the fact that period and now, like I said earlier, at that point, he accounted for 80% of Nigeria's employment. So why? That's with the steady decline, with all of these things mentioned, it was expected. I'm sure 61 years ago, it was expected that 61 years later, it would increase. But we are always seeing decline. It keeps declining. So what measures can be put in place to curb this decline? Because agriculture is Nigeria's non-oil exports, if not the largest.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So policy is we have to, doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is called insanity. I'm just quoting it.
Yeah.
You know, so bottom line is, the farmers that we were supporting 40 years ago are still the same farmers we are supporting 40 years after. Who keep selling, who don't pay back, you know, who have developed a system is a nonchalant thing. We need new sets of farmers. We have a higher population than before. So we need new youths who will come into farming. The sons and daughters of these farmers in the villages that we can say, hey, you're going to prison if you mess up. If you mess up, you're going to be working on the farm without pay for 6 months. We set a new agenda, a new goal, and equip them with modern equipment. And when I say modern, I'm not asking for anything expensive. We copy and paste India and China. There are small equipments that you push the equipment and you can plow, you can till 2.5 acres. The same equipment you use for irrigation, the same equipment you use to transport. So we need to just remove the hose and cutlass out of it by giving them new equipment until we massively focus on the youths and bring in the youths across the value chain. The youths in Nigeria today are one of the most enlightened, exposed, and educated. They have a global bridge. So we need to be talking about branding, marketing. The value chain of agriculture has moved beyond planting, processing, marketing. There are many fashion entrepreneurs as youths. You use seeds. They've polished the seeds. They're organic seeds. There are so many things we can export now beyond the tree crops and the tomatoes and co. So when you go for Hajj or to Israel or to Europe, the organic sponge is something that looks like cucumber. Everybody in the village uses that sponge. In fact, when Ojota is green, the refuse dump at Ojota, when it is green, what that thing that makes it green is the organic sponge. Good markets in Europe.
Really?
Huge market in Europe.
Wow.
They are looking, Brexit now, they are looking for watermelon, corn, everything preferably from Nigeria. So we need to up the standards. We need to get the NAFDAC, the quarantine. We need to equip them to be able to provide a support system for the youth. New sets of youth, not the old men. The youths are willing. They are frustrated because there are no jobs. But when you show them this value chain, the ones that want to rap, allow them rap.
African farmers, sorry to cut you here, but then in 2019, it's 2020, the president came up with a youth investment fund of about, I think, how many billion naira? I can't really remember the figure. Now we have, if you said the youth already, now that youth investment fund, the only criteria was bring a business plan with an agriculture that was workable. And we saw that most of these youth, you say already, we're not able to come up with a clear, concise plan that would worth that money. So would you really say these youth are really ready for agriculture? Maybe because of the decline lately, or the fact that they see it as an old thing. But if they're really ready, that would have been a perfect opportunity to get it.
So let me tell you, there's a funding now that the youths are not taking advantage of by international NGO for 100,000 youths. One between 500,000 to 5 million. It's available. 2 years. They almost took it back. But you see, the thing is, when government, that's where thinking through, bringing square pegs in square holes. If you would know by data that we have not taught the youths on how to develop business plan, you learn it. It's a skill. So if you've not taught them how to write a bankable business plan, it's not going to be magic that they will put together the words. Give them the templates. Even businessmen don't write business plans. They give it out. So how much more the youth that is not exposed? So it is your job to ensure that you first train them on how to put together 1 week. What they do is, attend this class for 1 week, and after that week, put the plan together. They give them a template. And when they are appraising the template, they say, we didn't find what we were looking for. Did you train them for it? So part of, you see, we don't think through, and they want to do it alone. So the money is there. At the end of the day, this is politics. It will be, they don't give the money out. That's the truth. They don't give the money out. They hold the money. When people are upset and tired, the money is diverted.
And nobody gets to hear about it anymore.
Nobody gets to hear about it. So if the money is there, your job, and guess what? What irritates me in these interventions is how many of the youths are educated and I mean schooled. A majority of our youths are in the rural community. So you should be doing your business plans in Yoruba, Hausa, and Igbo. You should be teaching them. If you want them to embrace it, you don't say, graduates, they should apply online. The ones you are asking to apply online, how do they know how tomato is produced? When 1 week is just what you train them in agriculture. So by the time, and you have brought in experts to give the marking scheme, and you have not taken them through livestock, and livestock is fish, rabbit, is huge. So you have not taught them. It is a national project. Teach them in Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo, and English, and people would access the funding. Decentralize this funding. create a platform where you can report at each region with the dialects, where they can call a number, create a platform online. All youths, most of the youths are on social media, irrespective of how rural they are. Create a platform where they can report that in my local government, I apply for this funding, it's not available, and it gets queried. Once you don't set up that mechanism, the thing is you don't want him to access it.
Now, African farmer, Nigeria needs 6.5, in fact, well above 6.5 million metric tons of rice, whereas what is being produced locally is meager 1.5 million metric tons. Now, the federal government came up with the Anchor Borrowers program, which was aimed at mass producing or and boosting local production of rice in Nigeria, which also led to the closure of the land borders and all of that. How would you assess this program?
The Anchor Borrower is a brilliant initiative. The design, I've always said it, and I give it to the CBN governor Emefiele. It's a brilliant program. But my question is, must we grow rice? Some things are science. Do we have the comparative advantage to grow rice over India, over Thailand, that has put in 30 years research? Their seeds perform because it is indigenous seeds. Must we grow rice?
But it turns out to be the staple.
Yeah, and so, rice meal
so rice has become our staple. But if you want us to grow the economy, we should be growing. We are #1 producer of cassava in the world. We are #1 consumer in the world. Can we increase our... Thailand gets about 50 tons per hectare. That is 15 plus, a football field. We get 11. What if we are able to take care of our cassava and get 50? Do you know what that revenue is? Cassava will support about 120 commercial industries. Rice only supports 1 or 2. Yam, we produce 70% of the global consumption. Nigeria. Can we, and yet our yam is just yam. It took the Indians to come to Nigeria now to be making yam chips, pre-cooked yam chips that you boil, you fry, in 5 minutes is ready. Indians in Nigeria, and our yams go to Boko, go to Nasarawa. The question is, can we focus on our comparative advantage and stop competing with Thailand because people eat rice? They eat rice because we don't have options. I'm not against growing rice. I am against growing rice for consumption. It will not benefit us as much as growing rice for raw material for factories, for noodles. Cassava starch is what a lot of the noodle companies use. Cassava starch for noodles, they import it. And yet we are the largest producers. So let's produce rice, but we are over-focused on rice. Corn. Every livestock bag you see, 40–50% of it is only corn, followed by soya. We don't have enough corn, we are importing. And the baby cereals that the multinationals use, they use corn, they are importing. Now that they closed the border, and they also removed dollar given to them, you now find out corn for eating, you won't find it around again. Can we focus on what can grow us internally?
All right, African farmer, for the want of time, we have to cut to here. That's a rhetorical question. Can we focus on what can grow us internally? And that's a question that every Nigerian should ask themselves, every employer of labor and every employee should ask themselves. Thank you so much, African
Thank you very
farmer.
much, okay? Thank you so much.
All right.